Way. Milton, can I please ask you to address us, and thank you once again very much for also for your office for all the help that we've received. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, and it's such a privilege to join you at this special discussion. And I want to start by acknowledging the traditional owners on the land in which we meet today. Australians for over 60,000 years have cared and looked after this country. Auntie Teresa, thank you for your story and your connection to Brisbane, but also the parallels to your life in terms of what you went through, but also what Brisbane has gone through as well. So thank you for your words of wisdom and leadership. To all of the volunteers, first of all, they're the people I want to thank straight away, who have worked so hard in pulling together this symposium for the next 2 days. You are part of the living history to ensure that we continue to learn from the past, as Paul just said, to deal with the issues of today that are complex but still relevant to 80 years ago, and also to think about the future as well. So past, present and future. To the representatives from the Kingdom of the Netherlands, Your Excellency, thank you for your support, and the Consul General, to such an amazing connection that Australia has with the Netherlands, and long may it continue. Colonel, thank you for your service for the United States. Australia and the US are the closest of partners, and the alliance is never needed more, or is never as strong as it is now. But thank you for the work that you do representing the United States and Australia. To the director of the World War II Museum, I want to acknowledge all of the amazing volunteers that happen through that organisation as well. The name Lily is synonymous with Queensland and Brisbane, and I also get to use the word Lily a lot in my job as the Speaker of the Parliament, because there is a division here in Brisbane named after Sir Charles Lilly, of one of the 149 other divisions in the Parliament of Australia. And of course to Councillor Sarah Hutton, a wonderful representative and a great friend, and someone who also shares my passion for ensuring that the area that we represent continues to be recognised and understood as the critical staging point that it should be known for. Your Excellency you said there was not a lot of Dutch people who perhaps knew the connection. Well, there's not a lot of Australian people as well, so we're all on the same page together. And I want to start by talking about, we're getting into the theme early of personal connections as well as we tell the stories about the 80th anniversary, which occurred 2 Fridays ago for the VP Day, Victory in Japan Day, Victory over Japan in the Pacific. And my story regarding Camp Columbia, the area of Waco, but generally here in Brisbane and Queensland. My father, Alan Dick, served in World War II. He served on the HMS Ararat, based here in Brisbane, and he was just 20 years old when he enlisted into World War II. He served as a signalman, Old Morse code, on the upper deck, and he knew that if the ship came under fire, it would be his job to call for help, and that he may not see that call answered. So I often think about him and the people he served with, the unknown, the fears, how frightened they would have been, how worried they would have been, but also here in Brisbane, how worried his mother was, and all of his family were worried about him. He couldn't send a text off the ship back to Australia then like we do now. He couldn't connect on WhatsApp. He couldn't send a signal message. He couldn't even send a letter. So I often always think about the practical side of what it was like representing your nation in the conflict on our doorstep. So it's stories like those, and I'm just one story, as we heard from Auntie Teresa, and your family's history, and everyone from around the world has their own story. I'm only one story, but for me, they are all deeply personal. Now, when my father was at sea, Brisbane was playing a critical role on land, and Brisbane was as we know, we're going to hear today, I'm not an expert in this area, all of you are, I'm just giving you my perspective as a citizen, as a representative, and as the Speaker of the Parliament as well. And you're going to hear, and you all know, that it was the home to General Douglas MacArthur's Southwest Pacific Area headquarters in town, and then WWII fits in under that as well. Brisbane wasn't just the support city, it was a command centre, a place of strategy, and a place where global decisions were made at a critical time for global security. And I think today, if I wind it back to why we're here, that's the legacy we should all agree on and move forward on. And listening to you, Paul, I think there is a greater story to be told on a national stage, as Australia's greatest Prime Minister ever, John Curtin, who led Australia through the times of war, said that Brisbane was the most important place. The Brisbane line was the most important part in Australia's security, or one of the most important parts. So I think further conversations with Matt Anderson, the CEO, and I'll be raising with the chair of the Australian War Memorial to look at how we can better connect. I think that's my first piece of homework out of today. Sarah's got her homework, and I my homework as well. On a side note, I was saying to Councillor, I do like the Dutch because they're so direct. Yeah. Well, that's it as a compliment. It's a good thing. And the part of the legacy that, connecting on, we're all connected here, is that I'm the patron of the Dutch Club in Queensland, which exists today in Richlands. And talk about direct, I'll tell you. Anyway, that's another story. But just finishing off my little personal story about General Douglas MacArthur, my Aunt Elsa was part of the stenographers who served the General. And she's passed away now, but she told those stories just about every week of her life about how proud she was to do her bit. So we're hearing from people at sea, with people in the Pacific, but we're also remembering those people who served here as well, who weren't enlisted, but played critical roles in the global decisions that were being made. So, as a local councillor, one of the first decisions I had was to support a bushland area that people wanted to redevelop, which now Councillor Hutton represents, the same area, to turn that into what is known as Boo Corner, which backs on to the other precinct of WWII, which housed the military operations and the accommodation locations. Now, fast forward past the war, past this area, the site at Camp Columbia and WWII also has another critical part of Australia's history. So we've gone through all of these iterations, and then we get to another critical chapter of this little tiny area. So fast forward to Tuesday in the Federal Parliament in Australia. In the front row of the gallery of the Parliament, where I'm sitting in the Speaker's chair, in the front gallery, which is called the Special Visitors Gallery, 2 rows in the front gallery of the Parliament, were every leader and representative from the Vietnamese community in Australia, who came to Parliament so that the Parliament could recognise 50 years exactly of settlement in Australia, because the same location, the same huts, on a Saturday morning about 50 years and 3 weeks ago to the day, today, a plane landed in Brisbane, and people fleeing communism and a conflict and a war called that place home. So 80 years ago, and then moving forward right through to then another significant chapter in Australia's history. So just put those in context of just how important this little piece, large piece of land is for our military, global and social cohesion. So we're dealing with a lot of issues here, but I'm so proud to have represented that area now for 18 years, and particularly now as the federal member. And when you go on site there, you will also see the huts being used now for the Forest Lake RSL sub-branch. So it is a living site at the moment, and we have funded that over the years to make sure all of the people who served in military conflicts and the defence force for our nation have a place to call home. So past, present and future, it continues what I call a living area. And this is before we get into it. I won't even touch the Dutch government in exile, the only time in Australia's history a foreign government has been located still on the same site. It's a long list, I tell you. So that's enough of my personal story, and I'm not the historian, far more experts are in. But what I want to do, and what Sarah Hutton as the local council wants to do, is to continue to promote and support the work that is happening on that site. So future generations in 80 years' time will also understand. That's why, alongside with Paul, we've worked hard, and I'm really pleased to announce a $20,000 commitment today of funding to support the heritage ongoing and resources for the next generation. There's no applause needed. As I always say, when it comes to federal government funding, this is your taxes coming back to you. So it's value for money. But when that application came through, I was so keen to see that delivered, because money makes the world go round, as we heard earlier today. And ensuring that you've got the resources and funds to do that, even though it's a small amount of money, will continue events like this, messages to go out, and what I then hope, and what I really want to work closely with you, if we can, I'm giving you some homework now, I would like to develop a schools program that we can take some resources to education.
We already talked about it.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We talked about it.
Well, you're one step ahead.
Yeah.
So as part of my job as the speaker is to improve civics knowledge, and I run something called the Parliamentary Education Office in Australia, and I'll be looking at how we can use Camp Columbia and their history to teach students not only in the areas that we represent, but also across Australia as well. So thank you for what you've done today in getting us to this point. I'm excited about the future because we're acknowledging the past as well. Thanks very much.